So here I've just got my actual pro account, although what I'm going to demonstrate today isn't something that's on you need a pro account for. You can do this on the free account. So one thing I noticed when I first started using Roll20 is, much like in real life, some things come up a lot in a game of, say, D&D, or this could be any applicable RPG. And common things are stuff like group passive perception, wanting to know the current health of the entire party, who's the most injured, that sort of thing. You know, you might just want to, the party might ask, oh, how much health have I got? How much health is he looking, is this other character looking injured? And unless you've shared all the health bars to show up so that everyone can see them, they're not going to see that, and you might not want to reveal that information to them all the time anyway. So yeah, I'm just going to demonstrate a few of those now in terms of a macro. Now we know, I guess you probably know that like a macro is basically it's a command that's run, and it's just run at that particular point, and it can retrieve the values. Certainly in Roll20 it can get the underlying values of a character sheet. Now if we look on, say, a character sheet, I've got 4 example characters here from my campaign. If we say we look at Verdun here, don't forget we hold shift double click to bring up the character sheet. Dead easy. It's always worth remembering. And then you don't have to go to this thing at the side here. So in the attributes and abilities section, you've got the list of these attributes, and obviously these are pulled from all the values you've entered in from the character sheet. Kind of discussed that in the last session we did. So down here, it's all the names and the values, and some of these can have max values. So which one should we do? We'll do say a health macro. So let's say we want to find out the health of the entire party, the current health value, and the max health for everyone. Unfortunately now there's no amazing macro that can automate through and loop through characters that you've identified in your campaign. You have to write the macro, a line basically for each character is what we're going to do, manual. But these are really easy to set up, and once you've got them for life then. And you can also adapt them and just change a few of the values to then have it do something completely different, like experience, for example. You might want to show every character's experience, current experience. So what we'll do is this health one now. So we go to the macro screen. We'll shut this down for the second. Go to the macros. You can see I have lots of macros. I am a macro hoarder. I've written all of these, but most of them are copy and paste jobs. So yeah, you can see there's quite a few pages, spells, all sorts of weapons, attacks, and some of these I've used some slightly more advanced things than what I'm going to show now. Again, still only using macros. None of this is directly related to any sort of API stuff that would have to be written separately. So without further ado, let's create a new macro. Here we go. And we'll call this macro group health. Now these other options down here, visible to players, this is permissions basically. If we want the players to be able to activate this macro, we don't really, so it might be applicable on other macros. We don't want no players knowing the health values of every party member. That would just be insane. Looking behind the curtain, they can't do that. So we're going to leave that blank. The DM or the GM will always be able to access these macros, so we don't need to worry about that from our point of view. Now you can see you can expand the window. Probably this is common sense, but I didn't actually realise that it had this little marker here to expand this. And let's just say I had a lot of pain writing some of these macros for a while until I realised that was done. And shamefully, it wasn't that long ago that I realised that. So there you go. Always learning something new. So as we know, if you type in anything, blah blah, test macro button, go to the chat, we can see that blah blah has appeared here. Ignore all this other stuff here. I just did some dice rolls earlier. So that's fine, but what we kind of want to do, we want something that's a little nicer to look at, so we'll use the built-in standard template. So to do that, you have to go ampersand curly brace template default. There we go. I'm not sure actually what will happen now if I probably should be okay. Yeah, so I've pressed test and you can see it's done like a purple bar. The default template has like a purple colour scheme. I like it, at least anyway. You can always not use a template and just have it line by line, just like the blah blah blah, and just have it basic plain text, but I find that a bit naff. So with that, after you've got this overall template, you can then use double curly braces like that. That's the start of a section that's going to be part of that template, and then we can close that with another two curly braces the other side, open and close curly braces. So let's see what happens when we do that. Okay, see, now we've got a line, so that line is going to be everything that's in here, in between these sections. If we want two lines, we can copy that. I'm using Control C, then Control V. It might look a little ugly, but we've got two sections there. So this is going to be line 1, this is going to be line 2 here. I hope that's visible enough for everyone watching. So we test. There's nothing in it, so it's not going to actually display anything at this point. So with this macro, it's got a keyword, and that keyword is name. So if we type in name, and think of this as being the title header of the template. So we want this to be group health, so let's call it group health. And so now we do test. We've got how have I gone wrong there? It's gone wrong. Let's see. Try again. A bit stumped in the first minute. Try that. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so there you go. You learn something new every day. So that name keyword has to be right next to the opening brace. Yeah, there you go. So let's put our other row back in now. And test it again. Now we should get the same again, but with a little white row underneath that header. Yeah, good. Things are starting to work. That's great. Actually, I should check the chat. Thank you, Andrew RC, for that. On the ball. I'll be quicker to refer back to that chat window in future. Okay, so now let's take this first character, Verden, in our case. Now this is just going to be the next line is going to be his health. So we type in Verden and equals. And what we're doing here is each row on one of these standard templates has a left side and a right side, a way of breaking it up, just like two columns basically. So you can have a description and a value. Say it's quite nice. So let's just hard code Verden as having 10 as his health. I know that it's Alexa. Don't get an Alexa, and don't then say Alexa, because that's what I've just done again. She's about to go off. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I've made another mistake there. I'm sure that's gonna. Okay, not sure why there's a massive gap between the start of the bar and Verdun, but we can come back to that. Okay, none of all this is just formatting, so the bottom line is once we've got the values in, you can then tinker with the formatting to fix it a bit later. I don't want to dwell too much on it. So, importantly, if we just slide that to the side a bit, and bring up Verdun's character sheet again, back to his attributes. One of the attributes is health, but it's actually called HP, and it's down here somewhere. It probably doesn't matter actually to show you this, but there we go. So his hit points is currently 21 out of 44, which kind of lines up with what we saw in his bar on the token, with him having about half his health. So, to get his health, we need his exact name, and we need the name of the value that we're getting. So that is going to be, let's see, so the keyword to get up the token, to access the token values behind in this section here on the character sheet, is using the @ symbol, and then a open brace. Again, we're using these curly braces. And now his name, as we know, is Verdun Iron Fist, and it has to be typed identically. Yeah, so Andrew RC on the chat is saying that he has found some weird alignment things himself when the right side is really small. So yeah, it could just be that because we did have, I've deleted it so far, the 10 was there. Perhaps when we've got more text there, it should hopefully pad out a bit. So, going back to this, we've got Verdun Iron Fist set up. Well, not set up yet, but his name rather. And we then want to use the new keyboard, what's the name of this key? The long line symbol. I've forgotten the name of it. We put that in, and then HP, which is the name of this here, and that should hopefully, well, we'll see. The good thing is you can always test. All you guys aren't necessarily going to be Twitch streaming this, so you guys won't look like idiots when you're doing it and it falls down. You can just keep redoing it. So there we go. It has actually worked. He has got 21 health as we know before, and that is showing up, which is good. If, say, we wanted to make it bold, we could use 2 stars around the whole thing, or at least around that section. All of a sudden, now his health is listed as 21. Note that it doesn't actually say his health, so in text, in plain English, you could write anything, but you could just write hit points after it. This might hopefully help our alignment issues. And it does, of course it does. So Verdun's got 21 hit points. Fantastic. Let's shove a few of the other people in. And I'm not going to go through and type it out all again. I suggest you don't either. But be aware that it is temperamental. Roll20 with its spacing and so on. It doesn't let you get away with much. So you want to be testing quite regularly, otherwise things are going to go wrong partway through and you're going to have copied and pasted lines and lines of people or things, and you're not going to know where you went wrong. At least that's what I found. So next up is going to be Diri the Wise. That's his full name, even though the token just says Diri, so we have to use the full name. So quickly just put Diri the Wise in there. That's his full name, replacing what was Verdun's. It's HP. He's got a HP value as well, just as Verdun did. The title could stay the same if we wanted to confuse people, but we'll change that to just Diri. And if we test again with some luck, it's gonna, yeah, it's got both guys on there now. I presume he has 23 hit points. It seems a valid number. I think he had full health, and I think that's what his health is, or more or less full health. So we've got 2 characters in now. At this point, I'm going to, for the purposes of good practice, remember to save, because I have been caught out on this a few times now. If we were, this is an incredible gotcha, to forget about this, perhaps we move over this, do either wise, that gets covered up, we think, hang on a minute, where's our group health macro? Oh, I know, I'll get it from here. And let's say we'd saved it once. The second time you go to open it, without having saved it, it reopens up, but it completely overwrites anything you've got in progress. Do not make that mistake. I have, let's say, I've not been happy a couple of times with that. So I'll save that, and it should be in here, in the bowls of my macros. And yeah, we got it back. Great. Now let's do a couple of more characters. I'm going to quickly try and do the next one. Sometimes a lot of these things get in the way. To be honest, I have a quite high resolution monitor. I've increased the size of things just to help with the video. Now here we go. Ridiculously long now for Wolf. Foreground some in brackets the white fang. That is actually his character name in terms of what Roll20 perceives as the character entity. So we need to take the whole shebang. I can close him down for the minute. And then, oh wait, that's him there. That's the last one. Just remember, don't leave any spaces in or anything like that, otherwise it may have a fit. It's got to match exactly. So we've pasted him in that new section. There's a copy of the previous one, and we changed the name to Wolf. Test macro again. Let's go back to our chat box. Yeah, Wolf. He's got more hit points. That's definitely his thing. And finally, let's do our last guy before we try and polish this up a tiny bit. I'm not going to try and guess his name. I will. So his name is Welby Toss Cobble. I will type this, I think. Again, be really careful on typing it correctly. So, yeah, all four of these characters referenced are accessing the HP value. Just change that title name. Remember, as I've said, this bit does not matter. You could type in gobbledygook in here, provided it's not a character that Roll20 is going to have a fit. You know, don't put an @ sign in, for example. Close down some of these windows. Test macro, and Welby's in there as well. So we've got this macro. We'll save it again, and you may have noticed I have these garish-looking, multicolored. Hello, occult technology, aka Matt. Shout out. Okay, so yeah, I have these. I'm not here to teach you how to have taste when it comes to colours and so on. I have pretty horrible taste, it seems, judging from these multicoloured monstrosities at the bottom. These are a lot of my macros that I have. Just to give you an example, let's see, party experience, for example, I've got. That displays the party experience much in the same way that I just did the HP there. Again, these values in the behind the scenes are just like the HP value, belong to that character. I can see what everyone's experience is at any point, and you can also shove images into these macros. So I've, rather than type out every single XP value, I've just taken an image from via a URL from some website that just has all the levels and proficiency bonuses in that, so that it's easy to refer to. So I've just saved my macro, and if I remember, it's called Group Health. So this, to get things in that lovely little multicolored bar there at the bottom, you just have to click in bar. Where is it? Here we go. So I think it's going to be shoved right to the back. This has its own slider as well, which I often get mixed up with the bottom slider. But you can actually move these around. Let's put Group Health all the way to the beginning if you can. Might have to put it halfway. I think the Roll20 guys figured someone would have so many macros. Oh god, it keeps going. Okay, that's right at the beginning. Great. And we click this now. Hey presto, we've got that macro. Fantastic. And if we right click on here, we can change it to one of my horrible colours. Let's go with some horrible turquoise colour maybe. Oh, look at that. That's ooh, cyan. Terrible. Go blind if you look at that for too long. So we got him there. Let's go to group health again. The other thing that the values have on the character sheets, as you may have seen, you can find this character's HP, is that there's this max value column, and you can reference that much like the other value. You see it's online with the same name, but to just get that you just need to add a max value to that. So let's try and be clever, and let's put space slash and then copy this again. I'll make this a bit bigger because that's okay. So for this character we've just put a slash in here. Let's copy his whole health thing again because we're going to get a similar value to HP but not actually HP. And let's put that symbol in again, which I still don't know the name of, which is ridiculous because I use it every day. And let's put max in there because that should get us the max value of that, just on that one row at the minute, but we can replicate that to everything else. And yeah, it does. So there we go, he's got 21 of 44 hit points, so that way we know what it's out of. Because if we do use this as say for when a player asks how's Diri looking, if it just says 21, we don't know. Sorry, Verdun in that case, player. We don't know what his health is out of. So how do we know that 21 hit points is injured if we think his max hit points is say 23 or so on? So that's how that can be handy in that case. And yeah. Question is this a waste of time me just doing this now? Let's see how quick I can do it without making mistakes. That's the important thing. So Diri the Wise is the next one. Copy his name over that. Test again, always test. 23 out of 31. Because the easiest mistake to do in this case would be to take one character, paste it on another character, and forget to change the character it references. So you could end up with one character using someone else's max HP amount and getting confused that way. Okay, so let's take that again, and for Wolf this time, let's do it for him. That looks right, apart from that bit. So we'll take his name. Did I take too much then? Yes. So now test again. Yeah, Wolf is good. Finally, I'm going to take one with a shorter name because that's just a pain. So yeah, for Welby, let's do another slash. Oh wait, no, that's part of the copy and paste, isn't it? There we go. And we'll take his name. You know, it would be really good. My advice would be to get all your players to call themselves Bob or Bill or something like that. Just really short, no spaces. And yeah, you won't have to go through a lot of this pain. So there you go, 28 out of 28 full health. Let's save that and hit the macro, because now of course we've got it as this horrible button. How could we miss that? There we go, it comes up nice and easy just like that. So the same principle would be levels and experience, as I showed you on the other one. Passive perception is an obvious one. You probably have to do a bit more for that. Let's. I'm trying to see. I wonder how long has this video been. I don't necessarily want to be on for too long. Yeah, I've left out some of my party characters, and in fact, some of these party characters are dead or MIA. But if we, and I've still not got the newest character on some of these macros, so I do need to add that, and that has been noted, Matt. I do need to get Father Ron on that in all his glory. So let's. I will quickly try and do this new macro, and I'll use the other one because, as we know, I'm a real fan of copy and paste. I'm going to just grab all that copy. Don't need to save anything because it didn't do anything. And yeah, we're going to do passive perception. Copy that on. First things first. Let's call it macro because I think I've probably got a macro already called passive perception. First thing I'm going to do is change the name to passive perception. Obviously that has done nothing to the underlying values, so it's still the group health, but in different clothing. But the good thing is we've got all the characters that we need now. So when it comes to perception, it's a bit more than just the value itself. There is no passive perception macro, as I understand it. On Roll20, you have to piece together existing values, and you'll find that you have to do this a bit when it comes to ability scores and so on. You want to get the total, and of course, passive perception and passive values in general are a bit different because they always start with a 10 plus the value. So I'm going to put in 10 plus. Now this isn't going to work just yet, so bear with me. And we'll get rid of this boldness for now because that's going to get in the way, I think. So I've got rid of the max value because that is not applicable when it comes to perception either. So if I test this now, it's just going to be text 10 plus whatever, and in fact it might even have a fit because I've used the symbol. Yeah, there we go. So it's got 10 plus 21. The hit points, that is. We don't want to use hit points, of course, but just to let you know, use square brackets to do calculations. So I've put square brackets around this 10 plus the hit points. We will change the hit points to something else in a second, but this should obviously be 31, I suppose. My maths is correct. Hey, there we go. There we go. And it also does a highlight with a yellow colouring. I'm not sure if there's a way to disable that. To be honest, I've never really cared about it. In fact, I quite like the fact that it stands out sometimes. So let's work out what the value is for his perception score. I believe it should be the perception proficiency value, which is perception underscore prof. It should be under here somewhere. In fact, what we can do is pop this out. Hopefully that is still visible on the broadcast. And then if I do Control F, you can type in perception. And we'll look for perception prof. It's not there actually. Of course, because he's not got the proficiency. But some people may have it, so we probably still want that in there. And then it's a case of adding the wisdom modifier, which is what perception is based on. So let's check if npcd underscore wiz mod is there. It is. you may potentially have your wisdom modifiers elsewhere. I like to store them under here, but let's sort of see. Wisdom. Yeah, I mean, you could potentially use wisdom and divide it. Basically, you're going to have to search through and find out what your character's using for his wisdom value. I believe I think that NPCD wisdom prof is used by default. NPC Wizmod. Let's just go with that. So let's try NPC underscore. Oh, sorry, NPCD underscore Wizmod. We don't need hit points. Uh, 10. Thing is, he probably does have a low wisdom. He does. He's got a wisdom of that. Let's just change that to 12 just to give him a +1 so we can test whether this is doing anything. He's adding the numbers up. It is. So he's gone to 11. His wisdom now. And let's also add on the proficiency modifier for that value. So again, we've got his name. I've just copied across. Again, all these values you can just keep copying the same character name, put it across, and we'll go with the perception underscore prof. It's because I've got I have the closing brackets back of that. There we go. He's got no proficiency, so that hasn't added anything on. I do believe that Diri is trained in that, so we'll take the whole line from the point where it is the character name equals blah 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 up to the curly braces that denote that character's section. Shove that in there, and I believe he was Diri the Wise. What's his name? Which we've got there. We'll paste that over the other values, so we're actually using Diri's values. Just the two values. So it's 10 plus his wisdom modifier plus if he's got proficiency in perception. So in theory, I think Diri's maybe got +3, +4 in wisdom, so he should be on 14, but he should be on a bit more because he's got proficiency, maybe 15. There we go, it's worked. He's got 15, so that's good. And what you might want to do in brackets, you could do a separate section to just show what his modifier is as well. That would be, be a case of not showing the 10 and just showing, or just showing what his wisdom is in the brackets. I'm probably not gonna keep doing this because it does take a while typing this, and and it's just dull to watch. I'm not really teaching you anything new. I'm just repeating it 20 times. The best way to be more familiarized with it is to open Roll20 and do it yourself, to be honest. But obviously feel free to just take what I've done and go with it. Another thing, your character may have something like the observant feat in which case he'll get a +5. So what you could just do is, I think it is possible to find that feat within the macros, but easiest thing to do is to just put in, say, if Verden here has it and he's got the observant feat, put 15 in, and his passive perception should jump up to 16. Something I know because I did actually update my passive perception macro for a character that does have a ridiculous passive perception. In fact, I will show you the proper passive perception macro that I've got for my whole party at the minute. Here it is, I've just clicked it. We can see Father Ronald with a ridiculous 20 passive perception, which does mean, of course, that I never need to hide or put fog of war on any secret doors ever again in my game. So there you go. Saved me a job. But in all seriousness, though, I find this incredibly handy because you can have all the tokens on the screen in different places. Someone's near a door or near something that's happening where the passive should kick in, and if you've got 6 characters or so on, you can't remember off the top. Well, maybe you can remember everyone's passive perception. Maybe you've got that constantly on the brain straight away. But I find I'd rather keep my head clear for doing the actual game and less of this stuff, which is what this whole thing's about. Really, it's about saving the GM time because we've got enough stuff on our plate without worrying about opening character sheets and asking everyone, "Oh, what's your passive? What's your passive?" Because in fact, one last thing I need to show you is the whisper GM function. So we don't, of course, we don't really want any of the players to see this stuff. So we type in /W GM space at the start of this whole thing, and you'll know it's whispered because it says to GM and it has a yellow background. That way, only I can see this. You don't really want to be showing the players passive perception rolls because they'll know that something's right around the corner, and which completely ruins the whole point. So I find that just hitting this whenever I see where characters are, I can just quickly see, oh, Father Ron's over here, he's about 30 feet away, but Eliana's got 15 and she's right near to it. I think that should be that she should hear it and perhaps Ron doesn't hear it, or Ron hears it quite faintly. And on the other hand, other characters that have, say, 10, Welby here, he's halfway, he's only got 10, so he hears nothing, even though someone further away hears something, that sort of stuff. It just makes it nice and easy, nice and quick, and you don't waste any more time than you have to on stuff like this, which is just crunching through numbers and trying to work things out. Make the computer do the work as best it can. So I'll leave it there because this has been a whopper of a stream. Probably have to edit this down if I'm going to put it on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. And I hope this has been helpful in some way. And if not, then let me know how it can be in the future. So there you go. I will probably do more macro stuff that's maybe a bit more involved. Of course, you might need a pro account for that, but there's plenty of other things. So yeah, thank you. Have a great rest of the weekend, whatever's left of it, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.